When it comes to like the warrior code and modern day martial arts, I think that's a very important factor that I feel a lot of martial artists and even martial arts schools have gotten away from, right? Is the importance of, practicing your craft, but also having, mm, I guess, a code to live your life by, right? Um, as a martial artist, especially back then, where you weren't just a martial artist, you were a warrior. Um, there's a certain way you're supposed to carry yourself. You're not supposed to, you know, take advantage of those weaker than you, use your skills to intimidate and things like that. And, even though that's the code even they had back then, many people did not follow that code, right?
Right.
That's almost like the ideal way that you should carry yourself as a martial artist and a warrior, right? And maybe the best of them and the best of us adhere to all the tenets, right? Because the tenets of Bushido, it's just good ways to live your life, to be a good person. And
Right.
I think that's also something that people forget about martial arts, right? Everyone thinks that martial arts is always about fighting, right? And though you do learn martial skills through martial arts, of course, the ability to fight and things like that isn't even one of the most important factors, right? Is ideally becoming a better person or a better version of yourself or the best possible version of yourself is the real goal of martial arts, right? And other than that, you have discipline, respect, right? Because especially when it comes to training for long periods of time, you need discipline, right? You need to be able to do it even when you don't like doing it or love doing it anymore, right? One of the most important ways to build and maintain skill is consistency. And that's a huge problem I think now that people have when it comes to martial arts is in like a capitalist Western society, right? Because it's so easy to quit things. No one gives you like shit for quitting things, right? Like people quit school all the time. People quit martial arts all the
Accountability,
time,
right?
right? Is like is for example like most people enter a martial art, they quit before they even get their first belt. They quit at white belt, right? There's even like a huge, I guess, joke when it comes in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that once someone gets their blue belt, you'll never see them again. And I've always thought that was wild because I've been just doing martial arts for so long. I've gone away from it at times, that's true. But that's only when like, important things of life have come in the way, like when I went to university and stuff like that. And even still, I trained, but to a lesser degree, right? And people make all kinds of excuses not to train too, like, oh, it's Friday night, I'm not gonna go train. It's like, no man, Friday night's the most important day to train because there's all these other things you could be doing, right? So when it comes to the Bushido, that Bushido code is a very ideal way to carry yourself as a martial artist, a warrior, and even as a person. And I find like in modern day society, that's something that we're really getting away from.
Why do you think that is? Just because, like you said, it's so easy to give up and no one holds you accountable? Or do you think it's just a weaker inner character that
Uh,
people
it's, I guess, a mix of those factors. It's so easy to quit things nowadays, right? For example, like you have a marriage, quit your marriage, right? It's
Yeah.
like divorce was seen as like a completely unacceptable thing back in the day. And I'm not saying there's never a reason to get divorced. Like obviously, if someone's being abused or there's infidelity, things like that, that's obviously reason to get divorced. But people, I feel, quit on marriages without even trying to work on it. They're just like, I don't like this person anymore, right? And it just shows like, you know, no discipline when marriage is supposed to be in our society seen as like uh, a sacred union, right? And people quit school. They're like university. I feel like, man, when I went, like all kinds of people dropped out. Man, I've dropped out too. So,
Me too.
and no one, and no one, and no one no one gives you a hard time about that anymore. It should be, when you have a commitment like that, it should be like, no, you have to finish your job, right? It's too easy to
Right.
quit in today's society, right? It's like we're almost taught to just give up and do the path of least resistance, right? People in general, I feel, don't want to work hard anymore. And that's why I think when it comes to, especially now in modern day society, there's almost no place for martial arts, right? Because everyone's like, oh, we just want our kids to have fun. It's like, oh, I'm just doing this as a hobby to stay active. And I'm like, okay, all those things are important, but it's a martial art, it's a military art. You're there to listen, you're there to learn, right? There's a certain way that you have to present yourself, right? It's like you line up this way, you bow this way, you do what you're told to be doing. Like you're not supposed to be running around in circles, right? A lot of places, I feel like even in school, right? Teachers can't discipline kids anymore. If the person who's supposed to be in control of that room can't discipline anybody, how can anything get done? Right? So
Yeah,
it's a huge societal issue, I feel, that it makes almost that warrior code and the way of the warrior impossible to be a part of modern day life.
but do you think that's why people like us reach towards Bushido, even at an intellectual or philosophical level, just because we lack it within our community? So we have to instill it in ourselves and find it from a different culture that doesn't even necessarily exist anymore. And the
I
martial
think,
arts are a way to bring that to the present, in a sense.
listen, I think martial arts martial arts have existed in every society. A code of honor has existed in every society. If you look, for example, at the Bushido code, it's probably pretty similar to the tenets of Christianity or Islam, things like that. Like any old code of honor, you're supposed to live yourself by. You have honor, you have respect. You take care of your kids, right? You take care of your community. It's just a basic fundamental way of how you should be living your life, right? And that's not always easy, right? And in modern day society, there's so many conveniences we have that it's really easy for us to take shortcuts, right? So I think people at their core gravitate towards that warrior code, but some get turned off of it because it's not easy, right? Like
Right.
I feel like everyone does want to have honor. I feel like everyone does want to have respect, right? I feel like everyone does want to be a productive member of society. Everyone wants to be able to defend themselves and their loved ones, right? But sometimes when the going gets tough, you know, uh, tough get going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, understandable.
So, as an instructor, have you noticed with any of your students that that coming to class and training harder and trying to follow the stricter regiment and these principles? Have you heard many people say that it carries over into the rest of their everyday life?
Yeah, with a lot of kids, it does, right? They will become tougher. They will become, I feel, more responsible, and they will become kinder people, right? The longer they do it, right? And if they do it for the right reasons. Of course, those lessons also have to be reinforced by their parents, right? So if you're teaching them one thing, in the school, and then they have no restrictions outside, it's going to be a lot harder for those lessons to stick. Maybe over a long period of time, eventually you'll get through, but it's not enough just to live that way or listen to, or follow the code when you're on the mats. It also has to carry on in the home as well. But that being said, I got to go teach you class right now. Thank you guys for having me on.